Greetings and salutations, it is I, Chelsea Rose, also known as Lucid Rose, and I am back for another sketchbook tour. It took me forever to finish this sketchbook. I believe I started it in 2019 and I finished it up early this year, 2022. And I think partially the reason why it took me so long to fill this one up is because I got an iPad during that time frame, and so suddenly a lot of my sketches, my concept sketches, were in digital format. So that's what I'm gonna also say, plus just the weirdness of the times of, you know, pandemic era, mass, you know, uprising, just a lot of intensity. Sometimes it just felt really weird as far as just creating during all of that. So anyway, it took a while, so thanks for bearing with me. I now have a new sketchbook tour for you, and yeah, appreciate your patience. And let's see, here's my stack of all the other sketchbooks I've toured you through over the years. So, you know, this is becoming a delightful little tradition we share together, and this one is what we shall tour now. So, as always, I'm using these moleskin sketchbooks, and I just like them because they seem a little bit more hardy than some of the other sketchbooks I used to work with, and they're you know, not too big, not too small. I can fit them in a purse. I always try and have my sketchbook handy. I pretty much tote this everywhere just in case I might need to draw. So it's important to always have that. So this is another thing that I like about these moleskin sketchbooks, is that, like, they don't die in my purse, because I feel like my purse is kind of also like a blender. Like, I don't know, I'm really rough on my stuff, so everything in my purse just ends up all messed up. These survive miraculously. And then I'm using my favorite pens. I have a whole drawer. A lot of these are Faber-Castell Pitt Artist pens. And part of the reason I like these so much is they're a nice India ink, and once they dry and cure, they're pretty much waterproof. So I can go back over the sketches and paint with watercolor or acrylic or tea, like whatever it may be, and reliably the ink's not gonna run. So that's pretty sweet. I really like these pens. Yeah. See if the tea's done steeping. I'm just having some Earl Grey today from Dow Tea. Favorite little tea shop in town. So before we begin, I wanted to just do a quick disclaimer. Be kind to each other, be kind to yourselves. And I think, you know, for me, my goal is always to just draw as much as I can. And I don't tell myself I have to draw every day or however many times a day, because it's just not conducive to my reality. So part of making art is just figuring out how to do it and make it work for you, and you know what feels good and natural and comfortable, and sticking to that. And honestly, I feel like that's a lifelong process of figuring it out too. I mean, I don't have it figured out. So anyway, this is just a peek into my sketches, my sketchbook, and I hope that I hope you enjoy. Okay, here we go. The dealy bob is, I think I might have actually toured some of this book already, partially, but what I've been doing is going back in to a lot of my old sketches and throwing some watercolor on them. So anywho, skip through the parts if you've already seen it, but I hope you enjoy some of the new sketches and the embellished older sketches in watercolor. Okay, here we go. first page is usually a bunch of nonsense and scribbles and stickers from buddies, and yeah, and as you can see right here, 2019, 2020, 2021, and then finished it early 2022. So this has been my sketchbook for quite some time. Okay, first sketch. It's an older one that I went back in and watercolored. So yeah, pen and ink. So it's just our India ink pens, and then I used Grumbacher watercolors to embellish. And this is the Mayan feathered serpent god. That was what inspired this. So Cucumatz or Quetzalcoatl, and this was actually my concept sketch for what I ended up painting when I was doing a mural fest in Mexico in Akumal. So that's what this was from. And this page, it's one of those draw this in your styles, and looks like it was, the art was inspired by @MAIS2-art. And yeah, this is an old sketch. I think this is one of the first sketches in here, and well, obviously, and I had fun embellishing it with watercolor, and I can see that I put some gouache down on this one as well. But looks like she's some sort of unicorn. More watercolor. And this was a concept of Frida Kahlo, inspired by Frida Kahlo. So it's kind of my own Frida Kahlo sort of portrait of her. Yeah. So another draw this in your style, and I unfortunately did not record the artist who that was based off of, so if you know, please let me know. And I actually ended up using this as one of my holiday cards, I think last year, or this year, last year, yeah. And so it's just kind of inspired by gnome type people, and she was off gathering some Amanita mascara mushrooms. I had a lot of fun with designing the fuzzy, cozy sweater dress outfit she's wearing. I kind of want one myself. Too bad I can't sew. Started getting into some blocking out of spaces with black, and then kind of reinvigorating those sketches with white paint pens. So you'll see, like, I re-embellished her outline here in the white paint pen. And then I just did this whole sketch back over in white paint pen, and then I added, I don't know if you can see that, some gold paint pen. It's always fun. I think actually under this is a sketch I rejected, and so it was very freeing to just block it all out in black and draw something else. It was fun. More watercolor pieces. I draw a lot of houses. I'd love to own a house someday. I feel like that's very difficult for our generation to manifest, but a lot of my little house drawings is just me being wistful. So I would totally be down to live in a little tiny mushroom house full of eyeballs. And yeah, I think this is some sort of gargoyle of sorts, but more like an owl, goddess, alien, fairy, mutant, third eye creature. More paint pen, more metallic paint pen action here. I think these colors were and this dress were definitely inspired after watching Crimson Peak. I love that movie. It's such a visual treat. And I think this one has silver paint pen on it. Some heavy, dark watercolor here. Kind of inspired by the anglerfish, the little light beacon, little hypnotized creature. Really enjoyed exploring two-finned mermaids recently, or in these last few years, where I've always drawn them as, you know, kind of your monofin basic mermaid, but really been interested in the dual-finned mermaids, and kind of what they represent in history as fertility goddesses like the Melusina. Yeah, two-finned mermaids really have caught my interest. More watercolor. You can see the texture here is salt. Such a fun thing to be able to throw some salt into watercolor and see what it does as it dries. These are little cuttlefish inspired. Nautilus, I guess nautilus, and then these are urchins. I had the idea that this maybe ancient civilization of people had like guides that were these, you know, water spirits, you know, and so, you know, her eyes kind of show that she's blind, but she's got this kind of seeing eye mermaid familiar, and then she's got her third eye, so she probably sees much more than any of us. More watercolor. That's fun. I don't draw swords very often, so it's interesting that these two happened on the same page. But started to see a lot of unicorn horns emerge in these last few years too in this sketchbook. It's kind of interesting to see that sometimes. Look through your sketchbook and see new themes emerge. And you're like, where did that come from? This is inspired by a buddy of mine's art, their concept character, and they were going by the name Hello Chingu at the time. They're now Muttrib on Instagram. Really adore Jesse and their art, and it's a good friend, and so it was fun to draw their original character in my own style. More watercolor madness. This is one of my favorite spreads of the sketchbook. He's fun. I almost feel like they're interacting or looking at each other to some degree, but they're two separate pieces. I've definitely actually used this one to recreate to some degree in a local mural in downtown Portland on a building spray paint that was the medium. Pretty much did very similar. So that's what a lot of these end up, is they end up murals or other paintings or prints or, you know, whatever. So it's just kind of, sketchbook becomes, you know, a lot of possibilities. But this is usually the first manifestation, and then if I really like something, I'll continue with it, try it in a new medium. A little mermaid hanging out in a teacup. Some weird flying heads. More mermaids and teacups. These sketches were inspired by the tea plant and what I imagined the tea plant spirits might manifest as. And then this one is the same. This was for the Plant Spirit Ally Challenge. The Plant Spirit Ally Challenge that was put on through Hagstone Publications. And I had been invited to participate and facilitate the art part of the challenge. And so essentially you were supposed to choose a plant ally and get to know them, like on a physical and spiritual sort of vein. And so I spent some time with Camellia Sensis and felt like this might be kind of what I felt the visual representation of that plant ally would be. And then this staining is actually tea. This page is dedicated to my friend Kelly Keegan, who we lost to cancer. And I think these were kind of Drawloween-ish time. More of my experiments with working on with a lot of black This was a mural concept that I ended up painting. It's still up, I believe, in the Taylor Electric building in Portland. I used this as a concept sketch for a acrylic painting. We finished this year. So it's got some of that metallic gold. And my camera died, so I had to rearrange my setup so that it could be plugged in. So, excuse that. I use this one a lot to do some tea staining prints, and I have intentions of using this one to eventually make a watercolor or acrylic painting off of. Just kind of a visual exploration of chronic existential dread that I feel at times. I think this was inspired by a photo I saw of like a baby giraffe on a mama giraffe's back. I don't know. I've recreated this one as a watercolor painting, which I no longer have. It's been sold. But it's fun. Just feeling topsy-turvy in between. I believe this original sketch was part of the April Fay drawing challenge. This is one of my favorite sketches in the book. I've been doing some tea stainings off of this as well, and I call it Peaceful Ruins, because she's supposed to just kind of be this ancient piece of architecture that's slowly crumbling. You see little pieces of her missing, but there's peace there, and there's beautiful things growing around and on top of her, and so yeah. This is more April Fay drawing challenge. So is this one. Also did a watercolor painting off of this, which was sold. This one is another one that I used for a watercolor painting that's been sold. This kind of same concept here with another character that's got this anglerfish light that they're using to, direct, almost like a carrot, their steed, which is this floating fish. Some pyramids, little wings. I really like this one. Started doing a lot of this kind of semi-body dismemberment, drippy, oozy stuff. That's kind of fun. And another familiar that's wrapped around this creature and they're conversing. And then this is one of my back pieces. I like to draw from this angle, and this time I put these, I think they're violin or cello, I'm not sure, marks. They're from the Man Ray photo that I really like. It's just kind of an ode to that, but it was fun to just try some more wing stylization and have them appear semi-transparent, but with eyeballs and texture and pattern, and so it was fun. So this one is also available as a tea stain. And that takes us to spring, I think, of last year when I painted this, or I drew it, and then used paint pen to go back in with some highlights. And this is a drawing that's commemorating the passing of my friend Kimberly, another friend gone to the other side. This one, the bottom down here was drawn sort of as a loose representation from memory of Venice Beach, California, which is where I grew up. Some of the, lifeguard towers and palm trees and things like that. I drew this one while sitting at the beach with my buddy. We were on a camping trip, and we were out at the coast, and we had just been looking at tide pools for hours. So I kind of sat down and doodled this on top of some black with that white paint pen. This one's feeling very like Smash the Patriarchy vibes moment for me. So that's what's going on. We've got like a matriarch. These are like kind of eggs or roe, and she's severing the snake. Some sort of quick little watercolor doodle with some sort of, looks like there's a shell bra here and webbing, so maybe some sort of mermaid with a cup of tea. And I drew and painted this one during the protests, and so I was feeling very drawn to Kali Ma, Hindu goddess energy. So anyway, you see the city burning. And this is the basic concept sketch for my big painting that I recently finished. Was my previous video I showed you. Did this big on canvas with acrylic. I drew this after coming home from a hike, and so there's lots of, it's kind of a rock stacking with like dripping foliage and mushrooms and trees and rocks and things. This one again is kind of exploring the times and you know, the horrible history of the United States with racism, and also thinking back to this book I was reading called The Deep. I hope it's understood this is just kind of like personal explorations of feelings that I was having at the time. Again, more of that sort of thing here with, got two creatures who are blindfolded, and they're holding a weeping eye. So I told you guys that when I have drawn during these times in these few years, there's been a lot of intense things, and there's a lot of these drawings that I haven't shown anyone. They're not on my Instagram, so you're getting to see every page, even the stuff that I kind of decided to keep personal. This one was more inspired by the cherry blossoms in spring. And I don't know about this one. I drew this pen and ink. It just happened. It surprised me. I really don't have any deep thoughts about it, but I was very much surprised and pleasantly surprised by what happened. And then I went back and did some purple watercolor, purple and pink. This is another sketch inspired by a walk in Forest Park in Portland. One of my favorite places to just go and walk around and get inspiration. So you can see I've got lots of different fungi like bird's nests and little mushrooms and acorns and turkey tail mushrooms and wild rose and ferns, and she's dropping acorns. So just a little nature spirit. Yeah, so this one was inspired and drawn around the idea of Liban, which is the mermaid saint of Ireland. This is another sort of experiment with watercolors. I think this was the first watercolor in the sketchbook because I had just gotten a new Grumbacher watercolor kit and sketched this up and played around with it, and there's barnacles all over the dress and various types of coral and things. And this pen and ink I did for another challenge, another drawing challenge. Well, I guess it wasn't specific to drawing, but it was kind of an arts challenge, and it was related to devotion. It was called the Devotional Arts Challenge. And this prompt for this was prayer. And then here we go, another pen and ink with watercolor, kind of exploring the idea of ancestors guiding us on our past. Been very interested in African water goddesses like the Orishas. This one was the prompt for love for the Devotional Arts Challenge. And I don't know, I don't think I ever posted this one online. It was another Devotional Arts Challenge. I don't recall what prompt that was though for it. I know this one was devotion for the Devotional Arts Challenge. That was the prompt devotion. I'm not sure what's going on here. I think this is like some sort of kind of yoni gateway. These are spirits that are coming through. This was inspired by the prompt transformation for the Devotional Arts Challenge. This one was reciprocity. And this one was ritual. I've just been very much drawn in the last few years to moths and butterflies and things that have a chrysalis and become more or change, transformation. So I think that's what I was thinking of here. It's kind of a transformation goddess. And I really like these two colors of watercolor. Just a really nice, almost purple blue, kind of like a sky blue maybe with a sepia. And I remember the day that I drew these. I was just kind of sitting on the patio, letting my mind draw a blank, and then just see what happens on paper. And I ended up with some really interesting effects here. And I haven't used this sketch yet for anything, but I do intend to. I want to do either a watercolor or incorporate into a canvas painting. But I have started with this one. This one is part of what I have on my easel at the moment as a acrylic on canvas painting. So this is the concept sketch. I had a lot of fun with this one. You can see she's a giantess from the sea, from the deep, and she's curious about this little house on the hill. Another thing I've noticed in the last few years are these silhouettes, these mermaid silhouettes that kind of fly through the sky in a lot of pieces. I think I was looking when I drew this at a particular tree in Forest Park that is a ruin of a tree. It was toppled and there's a big hole that was, punched through it through woodpeckers, and now there's like this new growth of this other tree that's now growing through it. And I really thought that was pretty interesting. So that's kind of where this concept began. I think I called this one a morbid curiosity. Got a mermaid in the depths, contemplating maybe the mortality of man and how strange that might be to an immortal. I don't know. Curious to hear your thoughts. This one was one of my favorite drawings. This is what I called Rainy Days. It's just kind of the vibes of depression and maybe feeling a little numb and kind of sitting outside of yourself and outside of your home and your mind, kind of just like that feeling of disconnect, but kind of at the same time having that sense of peace as it rains, as it's cold, and just being open. I like these wilted flowers and the smoke coming out of the chimney. Then quote-unquote anatomical hearts, where they're really super not obviously anatomically correct, but just kind of making little tubes and veins. And I think this is some sort of angel here. Well, I don't know what happened. She's lost her head. And then this was a complete and total surprise when I drew this. I was just like stunned into like WTF kind of moment, and really enjoyed just the expression in this creature's face. It almost felt like this creature was just as confused or stunned as I was about how it manifested itself. So this also is currently one of the characters that is in my current work in progress acrylic painting. And that's it. That's a wrap. That's all we have here. Last few pages are just kind of, I think this was a list of stuff I wanted to bring to on a camping trip in here. And then, I don't know what that beeping sound is, but we'll probably survive. And then here's a secret stash of stickers. Here's just like a hand-drawn one, and then here's some that were screen printed by my friend Raven for me. Yeah, you never know what you're gonna find in there. So, anywho, that's a wrap. So, what'd you think? Leave me a comment. Thank you so much for hanging out with me as I tore my most recent sketchbook, and I've already begun onto the next book. I'm only like 3 pages in, so it's probably gonna be a few more years until I do another one of these. So I hope it's satisfied, and thank you again for taking the time to watch. Thank you for liking, subscribing, commenting, blah, 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 blah. My website is chelsearosearts.com. If you're curious about diving deeper into my art, there's a link in the About page that goes to my Instagram, which is Lucid Rose. I also have a shop linked in my website if you're curious about collecting some art. I don't have too much listed at the moment, so if you see something somewhere in my social media or my art on my website that you want and you don't see listed, let me know, and I can always figure out a custom listing or something like that. And yeah, all right, well, cheers.